So how to it also means how to engage in the conduct, the paths, and the paths of practice that we need to engage in once we've sort of generated the mind of enlightenment, and then explaining what we need to do. So it's not just in the sense of vows, but in terms of the paths and practices that we have to employ also. And then it says the meaning of which I've condensed in accordance with the scriptures. So this sort of indicates that this is not something that Shantideva just kind of made up from his own side. It's not something. It's done in accordance with the. It's a summary of the which is in accord with all of the vast scriptures of the Buddha, and so it's not something that was made up on his own.
다 디네마 슈르가 같이도 니저니 지겨도 요미디 슈르가 지지 경연에 나기 라경신의 디니 슈르가 니도 디니 슈르가 니디기 다 준주 친구디 송야 디고라 다 컨테스트 지진 준주 친구 시규와 송규와 디시고래 다 상제지 송시了下呢시긴 송바로 다 dintre yinpa yinsang sila nan chikidu junju chimu dosu ma xie di xiwa la kurang la chi keba nga ma su kangi ma xie chi nga la ke xie mes una ngar ma xie ba chi kan xie me ba ina ni jatu xie ni ka chi gu ngar xie zaro pindu ke yo ma ra sang sang di le gu ro xie zang ngar xie ba kan xie mes ma se yang chi denda ji ba ina ci di zang lue dang ci di zinlue dan tinde gi chebo yodi gang la tsigi dijur san tsije ninga gi tsije sun tinde tsigi jeba tsiti dan de shibu tinde yeba ina ya sonan tigi or tinde yang ala mes diji kebang dalo yemi dis ta tenda ngara ma sheba shijume jeje gi tsi ngar ninga kimbutsugi 가서 그래 집어 딜을 하고 제게 매번 이나 다 준주 진부친 시에 가르치기 초명이 순리 차송 다 되네 이나 다 되네라 말했어 다 되네라 미 가rin 인슬로딩한라 알려 어시다 고나 난도 버루를 치진도 디시진에 삼아달라면 세상 딘데 인디간라 니디 핀도 자신부 용하게요 말했어 나 마시에 시에 메송바로 신님부시 우드네 기티시기 메송바로 아니 딘디간라 신라 핀도 자신부 용거를 삼아 메스네 메디가 다원은 가르치는 디유에서 디간라 오 랑기 일로 공신인디 장스 다 나랑 랑기 센라 핀토에 지도 나르지 망부지 장바의 상바 디제제디 짜두지 공야기 체도 상동야기 체도 디 장바 인스 다 랑기 일로 공용디간라 교 공시 다기 대베슈 나르 시sem버디 양내 양도 공용디간 수수기 대베슈 대베기 군주송의 대바당 다나신기 상바의 니지로서 디수기 슈디 도슈디 아니 공내공도 핀두고도 양양 공부이나现在第一印象也准许进步的马西语是马赛的之前呢现在了拼读语是不只当米了拼读员要马的是亏的给也不给面子因那样俺让的两百点的大家教我两百现在学了库朗的教我两百点的俺不两百库朗的找不着像点的米现在语是为你看工作了今年一些为的通俗呢古俗呢点点拼读员都考不住等于就是现在也准许进步是因素的是个的
So the next verse is about the way of composition, and it talks about how the Shantideva describes how he's going to present the this composition of the way of the Bodhisattva, and so as we've said before, this is it's based in all of what he's written here is based in. Has a basis in the vast scriptures of the Buddha's teachings. And then he goes on to say, there is there's he says he's sort of essentially saying I'm not a great scholar of these things, and I'm not. There's nothing here that the first line of verse 2 says there's nothing here that has not been explained before. So he's saying that there's nothing new in terms of, I haven't presented anything new in terms of the meaning. There's not some meaning that I've added on to on the basis of the Buddha's scriptures. I haven't added anything new. So it shouldn't be thought that I composed this text in order to present some new information. There's nothing new. There's nothing here that has not been explained before. And then in the second line of verse 2, he says, I have no skill in the art of rhetoric. So he also says that I don't have any sort of particular skill in being able to sort of beautifully and poetically join up the words and the verses together to present them in a very attractive manner. I also don't have this skill. So that's another reason. That's not a reason. Another reason why that's not the reason why I wrote this text, because neither of those two are true. And so if you sort of think, well, he's not adding any, and then sorry, it says, and therefore lacking any intention to benefit others, I write this in order to acquaint it to my mind. So what he's saying is that I also didn't because of those reasons, I didn't start out with the intention to, I didn't actually start out with the intention to benefit of others, but I did write this in order to acquaint my own mind with these things, because if I were to able to acquaint my mind with these things, then slowly, as it explains in the third verse, for due to acquaintance with what is wholesome, the force of my faith for a short while will increase because of these words. So the main purpose was to acquaint these subjects to my mind. Through that, the power and strength of my faith could increase, and my power and strength and faith, particularly in the three jewels, would increase, and also in my mind stream the positive factors such as bodhicitta and compassion could also increase. So for this reason, to acquaint these things with my mind and for those to increase, this is why I have written it. And then he says, if, however, these words were seen by others, equal in fortune to myself, it may be meaningful for them. So he's thinking here of not of others. He's thinking, Shantideva is thinking of people who are of a similar level to him, and that perhaps that when they read these verses, that it may be those who have a kind of similar power of intellectual wisdom and knowledge may gain some meaning from it. So those two verses, verse number 2 and verse number 3, are talking about the kind of manner and the purpose and manner of writing the text.
ngaso tanda tenjuji milir muchi todi gyores ta milir tobe kato dila tuen kar droba ina ya tsi shimi tuenda tsindigi tuenda kandaji droba ina dro tuyagi tengi chane ludengi chane migi luden di chane sama dro tuyagi kuka da nyuba yordas di zani chola tangji yo mares di dindegi kuka di maombala hajangi rakabures disi gorda.
So in the next verse, the fourth verse, where it discusses about leisure endowment are very hard to find, and so in this verse, Shantideva is when he's speaking to us about essentially kind of warning us to take very good care, because what he says to us that this is a point in our lives, in our all over our lifetimes, that we've managed to attain a precious human rebirth. And this is, we have to think not only for this life, but for many future lifetimes to come. And this precious human rebirth comes with a tremendous potential to make progress. and to accomplish what is meaningful. And therefore, he warns us that of the danger of wasting that precious opportunity. That's what he's saying in the 4th verse.
다 된주지 밀루스에디 하장이 니 카보리 세디 대화진 저거 주세 주로
Mm,
디 된다디 디스거다 취주발라 수수기 류딩기 차네 차 차진 참모 창대바 류딩기 차네 차진 참모 창모스는 이건 류딩기 차네 빼나 옹부만 상왔다고 이뭐이나 미기
mm,
옹부인지 만상와이나
mm,
취주에게 그거 침부지 라주 그러다 미기 대지 로중시에 참매고 차그로
mm,
아니 나요 옹부다고 인다랑 세상
mm,
딘데 많이 뭐 류딩기 차니 취주고에라 창고에기 차진 참모 창바 디양
mm,
레라오지 말해 다양 저번 주스라 인디간라 수수 강도 요석이 사제 고유기 차니 취주발라
mm,
준비지 차상 상유바 배나 상제지 템버 유바 안취 러킹기 긴라 유바 취년도 장킹기 안취주 주부 유바 취了 장배 카도了 튠진 자킹기 진다당 아니 야지 가서 그래 수유 튠진 다 진다도 마소는 근데 동구동지진이 진다징이 라소바 디주데 매버이나 아니 취주의 그거 용고 말아 세상 시기 내기 차네 취주바의 튠진 차상 유딩이 수수기 차니 류딩기 차니 튠진 차상 상이디 갈래가고 베레스다 이해고로 다 디자인도 마시베 베는 밀루토발라 시시마 밀루토바 땡케지 용야라 시마 냐올라 미지에 땡케고 그래 이달라 미지에 땡케고 그래
mm,
둔줄라 미지에 땡케고 수고 그래 디스토에 레라오면도 둔줄라 지마지 세디 이달라 지마지 냐올라 지마지 세디 라와요 말에 그 가르기 토는 두고 그랬으나 junimba mao sawa ina ani ngesong la manju gure ju zangwa di mao sawa ina ani dinju lada mi ko fang la yan ju gure ta junimba mao sa gure yabuji mao sa gure slawa ina ngasu mi mao shio la ta di gang la pe na ngarang su su la dewa ina da shuba ya lang ne gonda gi pa du mi gi samba di mao yung gudwe ge samba di mao yung gudwe ani da na shi gyo da mi gyo kan ma yi nang yin che jine du 가속으로 구주 수주 매딩 순지 데데디 마오 연구도에 취재 까마리질도 신주 제베이나 나 지당기 미질르다 게 자와세디 게어지 조바이네 구창이 주미창이 순지
mm,
로 칸전 제베이네 구여런 주명이 순지 칸전 지기지기니 상나 신다지 tinde지 세상 게어디 야부비 다부시 연구면도 다 미기어 제디가라 토마 롱랑 아니 뉴버제베 카톨라베 밀로 뉴버제단데베 나르낭세 순지 뉴버디 제차디건 생기 나로라단 디스핀부중 공예 다다 수도 상사 수르지다 용은 조순 참아 비다고 시부 참이 샤다 수르지 세상 디인디간라 심한 둔줄을 지기 말세디 맞추기 단대 제당을 대버이나 하나 둔줄을 지야다 냐올을 지야 이달을 지야디 니디 수르지 맞추 단대기 카드들 대버이나 세상 단주기 밀리토발라 디수 참아 가서 그래 마요에 땡키버 수미시 둔줄을 미지에 땡키버지 수도 고거로 다디 수도에 레라고면도 세상 된지기 밀리르무치 세디 할레베 갈레카버레스 다야 마뇽기 투네 카시 미 가수 구구 지기도 슬로이나 로 파마니를 부 가수 구구 가수 구구 슬로이나 다가한테 지 부니 손시 같이 인 잠블리를 미통시 든지 제주 디 가수 구구 순지 말해베스나 디 상로 총잡아래 가수 둔주기 장갈을 때와 있는 미세디 할레베 뉴르 부기 장갈 때와 있나
mm,
아 디네 잠 지dengi 칸 용주를 때와 있나 단대기 미 장가세디 할레베 니뉴나기 니로 세상 잠블린 디 나로라 베나 둔주베 사야 동슈 제주 둔주시의 세기 말에 장alen 대와 지와 있나 구지에기 레라부터 지토에 중고도 미tin데 메도
mm.
로 미tin데 용토에 메 세상
Right.
미 지워 내기 국거디 할레베 니뉴를 장가기 전에 그 디장 세기 말단도 주시면
That's something. And so then the verse is the verse 4 is talking here about the precious human rebirth, and particularly about the leisures and endowments of the sort of qualities of leisure and endowment that having a precious human rebirth entails. And and so this is what this is talking about, is what we call the physical basis of the physical support, or the physical basis of the life of a human being, is having a precious human rebirth. Now, of course, within those within the leisures and endowments, there are which are the conducive conditions for Dharma practice to take place. Then with there are the 8 sort of unfree states. The state is free of being unfree, so the states of leisure, which allow us to practice. So that's particularly being born as a human in the human realm and not in another realm, but also in terms of one of those factors is also having in terms of the leisures of being free from lack of freedom, is to be, for instance, to have all of our faculties complete. And so all of our faculties would mean, for instance, that if we didn't have our ear sense or our ear faculty didn't work, then it would make it much more difficult to study and practice. And so that's talking about having this complete set of causes and conditions of leisure and endowment, which allow us to practice the Dharma. But also then in terms of the endowments as being, and the 8 states of being free, and then the things we're endowed with, and these sort of include such things as being being born where the Buddha's teachings have come, and that having an existence where the Buddha's teachings have come, where there are people who practice the teachings, where there are conducive, and there are all of the conducive conditions which support the engagement in the Dharma practice. So this is in terms of all of these provide us with a precious human rebirth, which gives us an incredible opportunity to engage in the Buddha's teachings. Now, sometimes it's said that the purpose of receiving a precious human rebirth is also to ensure that having attained a precious human rebirth in the future, we should try to ensure that we're not born in these other states, states such as other realms, such as the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, or the hell realms, where there'll be no opportunity for the practice of the Dharma. But of course, saying that is one thing, and actually it's very difficult for us to we're not really in control of that process about where we'll be born. If you create negative causes, engage in negative actions and create negative causes, then it will be very easy for us to end up being born in the lower realms. And only by maintaining very good conduct and engaging in positive practices will it be possible for us to attain another rebirth in what we call a higher realm. And if we look at how we actually carry on from, if we were to look at ourselves from morning to night, and if we were sort of to examine the states of mind that we commonly that we can examine the states of our mind throughout, looking from morning to night. And if we really, this is talking about, ordinary people, or our ordinary condition. And if you think, well, if you look at each, I'm talking about going into detail here. So where you look in each minute and really see whether you have a sort of a complete positive action, or whether it's a complete negative action. So in terms of the intention, in terms of the actual application of at the time of the action, the actual sort of correct engagement or application, and then at the end of the kind of conclusion, almost where we sort of, and it's not dedication, but where we sort of reflect on what we've done. Now, for instance, you could take the example of performing our daily recitations. When we do our daily recitations, do we really have this kind of full and complete virtue where where the intention, the application, and the conclusion are all sort of complete and pure? We can see very often in terms of committing negative actions, for instance, harming someone, those things like the intent, the performance of the action are done enthusiastically, and then at the end there's a kind of sense of sort of rejoicing, a kind of sense of rejoicing that the action has been done as it is, and this creates a complete negative karma. So not being born in the animal realms, the hungry ghost, or the hell realms is very difficult, and we need to use our this precious human rebirth as an opportunity. And one of the other last ways to look at this is in terms of how difficult it is to actually achieve a precious human rebirth replete with leisure and endowment, is to look at the numbers of beings in particular realms. Now, for instance, when we look at the animal, in terms of the human realm, there are maybe 8 million human beings on the planet. But then if you take the animal realm, this is only a small number when you compare that in comparison to the animal realm, where there are literally you can't even, it's not possible to actually count or even estimate how many sort of beings there actually are in the animal realm. If you include all kinds of insects, etc., then it's beyond estimation. And so you can see how the preciousness of the human rebirth can be presented in many different ways, in terms of difficulty to achieve, but also in terms of the numbers of beings in each realm.
미인왕이 취주비 국어 차상유익인디 하장기 근부로.
Yeah, so even if you look within the human realm, the number of people who actually have the opportunity to really accomplish and actualize the Buddha's teachings it's very rare that this is the case.
슐루가 지다 감바지디 가르스거스나 디레 빼는 가수 뒤로 지도선 논주기는 나갈라 지난고 난공차시시네 유 추디간의 추지마도 요 말어 난게 유디 로유 추디간 추지 가샤카시시고 오 디나신 디디주디 툰둥시우지로 오 디나신 나란수 밀리투니 산제기 땜버든 제인데 취로 쇼야기 상례 디지털이 그 추지 로 근데 그거 예외도 그거 하상기 때 디리스 근부 뉴스로 그러베 신의 내장 용감 오 근데 차디고 그래스 세상 디인디간라 단대가라서 밀리투베 취던 제요 그거인데 하장기 짜침부리 디카도딜라 때 삼보 춘중지 겨 주어이나 겨 춘중지 근데 상상당에 많이 뭐지 겨냥주니는 다 겨 러치무치 줘야 상당 그래서 어디서 그래.
And so the next verse, and I think it's the next verse, verse number 5, where it reads, just as a flash of lightning on the dark cloudy night for an instant brightly illuminates all, likewise in this world through the might of Buddha a wholesome thought rarely and briefly appears. So if we imagine this sort of stormy cloudy night, and then just for a moment there's a flash of lightning, and it's so fast, it's such a short time that lightning is there, and um, and just like that, in the world, even though we've attained a precious human rebirth and met the and met the teachings, uh, uh, it says that in the world, this kind the mind of the mind which a wholesome thought or a mind of virtue is so rare. The flashes of virtue are so rare and hard to find. They're hard to come about and hard to find, and so we at this time that when we've achieved such a precious human rebirth, it's so incredibly valuable and important, and we mustn't use it just to. We mustn't have a sort of small mind. We mustn't be small-minded and try to just achieve a very small kind of virtue. We have to. We have to sort of attempt to accomplish or achieve the vastest virtue, as vast a virtue as we can.
음,
Plus,
이, 상황의 샤비에는 비자 로네. 따기 년도
uh,
지나.
yeah, does everybody have the text? Because it'll be much better if we're all reading along together.
이 말에. 야, 텍스. 다 디 강기 디 나로로 디데 기원이 하시니를 다스리야. 당시에는 디페시 마틴 거 있어. 다 상주기 생기 표현 원시 송야디 니니만 구조는
Mm,
거다.
mm. And so after this, then what we really start to talk about is from the next section onwards, the next verses onwards, we really start to it starts to be the main section on the benefits of bodhicitta.
음. 다 나랑서 기원 남준 기원 가르치에 대한 뉴버 춘중이 마도 제투고 말아 딘데지라 다 따버를 딘데지 니에디고로
Mm,
딘데기 강사 나랑서 따비기 있 기원러 치무 주마 통이티기 디번이 하장이 또 치무 신도 미세바 디버 시부드네 사고로
mm,
디버 또 치무 사야 디 디버 디파 시지니버스는 매버스 따버를 제라
mm,
샹주지 센레 하바
mm,
디버 또 치무 파 시지니니 디버 또 치무
mm,
디 뉴메 순르지 수퉁이디
mm,
샹주지 센레 하바 기와 간요 말이스 샹주기 생기 시지니에 두번 나신 기와신 강기야 디버 또 치무 디 시지니에 두고 말이스 어디 숨도 다 표현 딘데지요레스 표현 당부티
So the first benefit of the first benefit that Shantideva talks about of bodhicitta is it says where it says here, um, all ordinary virtues are forever feeble, or I'll read Stephen Batchelor. Hence, virtue is perpetually feeble, and the great strength of evil being extremely intense. So if we look at our sort of regular condition, then we see this that actually we tend to sort of we have our virtue is it doesn't have a strong kind of potential to it. It doesn't have it doesn't have great strength to it, and the but in comparison to that, the great number of kind of negative actions and that we have done and do is much stronger and much more intense. But then Shantideva goes on to say, but the great benefit of bodhicitta is that even though, so virtue is feeble, the negativity is strong and very intense, and but the there is there only the mind of the fully awakened mind of the awakening mind of bodhicitta will be is the kind of mind the greatest of virtues that will be able to overcome this situation, in particular to be able to overcome the situation of having very weak virtue and very strong negativity. So that's the first benefit of bodhicitta, that it has this strength and ability to outshine or overcome the strong negativities, and no other virtue has this ability.
다 시월라긴 딘데 송야디 디번 종버 제발라 샹주기 신의 라바 요마리 송에디 상제지 송기 나로라 파기지 송 눈문자문자나 파기 송바다 수기 송바 참마추 뒤지진 송거 왔다 디시월로 코난기 타지니 말에 상제 중된 대지된데 송여 왔다.
So this is not something that Shantideva again sort of decided upon or made up by himself. That this idea that the fully awakening mind, there's nothing greater or more superior than the fully awakening mind for overcoming negativity. This is not something that Shantideva made up or came to a decision by himself. It's based in, it's mentioned in many scriptural quotes from the Buddhas themselves.
다디 오디라 디레 상주기 신디 상제 중된 대지 개바동을 러곤제와 있어 슐루가 지디 가르송거스나 상제 중된 대기 배 가르스고르다 뒤통모매원이스라고 그러베 깨봐 빠다메 나루니 배 신진기 된다 지불을 상당다 신진라 상 간전자고 있다나 신진라 핀도 치우 용거래 가래 공부 있는 신진라 핀도 치우 용거를 쓰지니 따지 유체 매너미도 매너마도 참마 제시시니 타마딜라 니에딜라 아니 상주지 신디 니버레 신진라 핀도 유바 핀도 치슈 유바다 니쿠나레스.
And so, and in terms of coming to this understanding that the bodhicitta is the greatest way, the greatest benefit to all of the sentient beings, in the verse number 7, it says where the Buddhas have contemplated for many eons, have seen it to be beneficial. So the Buddha, this is the Buddhas who have seen this, and this decisiveness about bodhicitta, this benefit of bodhicitta came about through many eons, many eons, not for a short time, but almost beginningless. But we can say in the text it says over many eons they searched for what was the thing that was the greatest, would be of the greatest benefit to sentient beings. What was the greatest thing and the greatest way that would be of benefit to sentient beings? And they investigated and checked, leaving no stone unturned to find it out. And they came to the conclusion the the bodhicitta was the greatest thing that could bring the greatest welfare to sentient beings.
나가다네베 신진낭지 디오추 디에나니 디오추도 주바 상제지 구반다 타베 구반다고 다 상제지 구반다고 디 루야기 루베토 상주기 센다 상주기 센라 때문에 디다비기 라노메베 디오추도 주바디 디라도 투버치기리 제토야기 표현이오레스.
And also that there's also that this bodhicitta was indeed, they also describe how the bodhicitta was indeed the kind of most effective method for which all of the sentient beings could find their way to the highest state of bliss, the complete state of Buddha, the complete state of Buddhahood, and to achieve that complete state of Buddhahood, the method of bodhicitta was the most effective method which could lead to that unsurpassed state of happiness. So the Buddhas also contemplated this.
다 디오기 슐루가 지디 시베둥에 자타세 시수기 슐루가 지디기 다 콜 네비 콜노 코에 네거수다 둥엔 담은데 나수바 자타 다 나수바 체요로 강에 디다 탕지 용벌 되어 있나야 상주기 생라 되는 용거리스 아니 콜노 코에 네거를 신진 신기 아니 미디와다 강에 나수바 디다 세온 되어 있네 상주기 생라 되는 용거리스 안 수수라니기 코나 코에 네거를 디와 다 디원 담은데 뭐뭐 여러 수를 때문에 디와 달라 때문에 디와 나수바 디다 탕지 롱주번 되네야 상주지 생라 되네 디수 용거리 디다 상마 상주기 생공말 되는 용거다스 표현되는 요스 거다.
And so the next verse 8, where it talks about how to the next benefit of the contemplation and implementation of the awakening mind, it says there is nothing greater than the practice of bodhicitta for those who wish to destroy the many sorrows of the cyclic existence, this conditioned existence. So we see that in this samsaric life, there are so many, such a variety of different kinds of suffering. And bodhicitta, on the basis of bodhicitta, we would be able to overcome all of those. And in terms of in even if it's at present within samsara, but those all those beings who wish to experience a multitude of joys, so all the different kinds of different forms of bliss and happiness, pleasure, bliss and happiness that we that beings wish to experience, they can all be enjoyed or experienced on the basis of this mind of enlightenment. So those who wish to experience and so he says in the third line, those who wish to experience great happiness should never forsake the awakening mind. All of these qualities arise from on the basis of the awakening mind.
다디 오디 슐가 지디 상주 생제 존나세 시수지 슐가 지디 가르송거스나 게시 나랑수 주了상주지 생지 주了지웨이나 다 단단 나랑수 코너 코르치지네 샤타기 류부 근데지 랑치지네 냥타바지 여베이나 양 아니 상제지 세세기 딘데기베 첸디 토고레스 가서거래 제외세 세기 첸디 토고레 상제지 세 니단자의 세 투세 투지 세세 디차그레 마세변 로사단 제번 지딘 용주지 샤샤에 아니 유수주와 딘데 차그레스 상주기 센지비 왕기.
Yes. So if and then in the next verse, verse 9, where it talks about how we're able to, even in a moment, develop the mind of enlightenment of bodhicitta in our own minds, then even though we are trapped in this circle of samsara, as it says in the verse, fettered and weak in the jail of cyclic existence, if for a moment we're able to give a rise to a moment of bodhicitta, then we will still, even though we're a person who still is born in this samsaric realm of also of kind of a body of flesh and blood, we would still be named the son of the Sagatas, or the sons of the great compassionate ones, or the children of the great compassionate ones, or the children of the Sagatas. So we would be revered even by those people of the world. So this is another benefit of bodhicitta.
다디올라 센주지 나오추도 미장륜이 랑니스면 시주 지슈르가 지디기 가르송거스나 나조 단다 디오로 센주지 지세지 로야진 도와다 센주지 지세지 도바이나 다디 고물루도 도버스고 근데 도지지 디기 뉴버스도 니바이나 센주지 지디 자가와서 투바이나 자상마 셀라 바 준주해 되지 요레스 디디 가서 딘데시 요나 요스다 디비디리 고물루도 그걸 딘데 중버시야요 다 센주지 지디 조투바이나 디조네 자가와투나 상마 자레디 자디 셀라 바 준주고레 딘낭신스 거다 단단 가란수베 냥타바 풍부 륜딜레 때바이나야 메상에 류 딘데지 레디 생게 나로라 상주지 생주르 지웨이나 상주지 생 센주지 지다버디 가란수 수부디 파 가소레 수부 메상와 냥타바디 파 주르지지네 아니 마음발라 나란수 상제지 구방 토야디 기진이도 토버치야 베 뇨니도 상제지 꿀어 파 줘야디 주투르 상주기 생기 뉴바디 어딘데지 용그레스 디 주투에 대한 상주지 생러디네 주투오레스 딘데기 표현이거든
And so the next verse in verse 10, where it is a verse of an example of the alchemy of being able to transform ordinary metals into gold. And this is this is something which is said to have been something which was around at the time of Nagarjuna, this ability to actually transform ordinary metals into gold. And that's obviously the example. But then the meaning of that verse is that even though we have at this time this unclean body of and just as we're able to transform ordinary metals into gold, if if we firmly seize this awakening mind of bodhicitta, then we will be able to transform this unclean body, as it says in the verse, into the priceless jewel of the Buddha's form. So we will be able to immediately transform this unclean body into the body of the Buddha on the basis of the bodhicitta.
다디 오기 슐르가 지딘 로에 대변지고 체면 루세디 리본용스탄 렌시 오 디기 가르송거스나 다 디송거 텐다 조디 가서 샴베멜랑 나로라 닌주 랑니 도지지 투리 랑 저된라 가시메번 rin지비 상주생의 샤세도 세주바 다 텐다 디스고 다 간다 상주게 생고말라디네 니송 송了송 도 메동어디야 상주게 생기기레스 상주생 고마 있는 니송송나마 동야기 구디 랑신 켄루레스 투릴 하다미 고반당 타베 고반디야 가서 닌둘라니를 딘두 야 닌둘라니 두지 투릴라니를 된 투릴 하다미 고반디야 상주게 생고마 디왕기 랑신 슈마투기 용그레스 가시메번 렌지버슨 타바드 탄제치미 고반디야 상주게 생고마 딜라디네 그 디 조우제지네 그 랑신기 용투에지 디강의 용투에지 월 세상 딘제기 배 레버 용스 따네 린체 딘제기 배 자치무지 뭐 인디강라 코에네다 저 코에 동에를 타원 되긴 디수제디 상주기 센디 공바다 공네 띵부지지네 냠범메버 치고 그래 딘제기 표현이 뭐 도와준 거다.
So the next verse is talks about how the having seen the preciousness of this awakening mind, the taking hold of this awakening mind would help us to be free from all of the worldly states. Now, in the prayer of Maitreya, it talks about how how the bodhicitta is able to by giving rise to bodhicitta, it is able to help us to stop giving birth in the to stop us having rebirth in the lower realms, such as the lower states, such as the animals, hungry ghosts, etc. And then also in terms of and this is a sort of process that will naturally occur as we give rise to the awakening mind, and then it will also naturally help us to be able to be born in the higher definite goodness, what is called definite sorry, not definite goodness, the higher states of rebirth. So it'll naturally help us to be born in the higher states of rebirth, such as the human realm. And also beyond that, also it will help us on the path to liberation and eventually complete enlightenment. And so so the prayer states that it's very important for all of these factors. It's very important that we cultivate again and again the mind of bodhicitta, and we ensure that that mind of bodhicitta does not decline. So that prayer from the prayer of Maitreya also relates here to how all beings wishing to be free from worldly abodes should firmly take hold of this awakening mind. That's verse 12. Sorry, verse 11.
다디 어디다 교신의 취신도 니세 시주실로가지디 가르송 거스나 다 상주기 세마도베 교신 가르치에 있는 교신다 디수 제디 추신낭신의 신기낭의 추신낭신 추신세디 린지 제부지 제부지 산에 하양 루지만 제부 지에요바 딘데 기요만 제부지 가소리 지산에 디네고 신디 출란주고르스 디낭신리스 다 상쇼기 신디 바상지 준시다고 바상지 신다고 제부 달로양베 제부 신도 있다 다빈 제부디 장내 대버지지 야 디주 사변지네 야 장내 대버지지 로 마세 달로 장내 대버지지 루지마의 장내 대버 또 지지네베 주주매 대버 제부 세바 매버 딘데 지용그레스 시장 상주지 신디 기와 신내장 체버도 파버레스 어디서
So then the next verse describes the way in which in terms of the virtues, talking in terms of virtues, and in terms of virtues, the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, is this verse explains how that mind of enlightenment is superior to all the other kinds of virtues, and the verse explains how all the other virtues are like the plantain tree. So the other virtue, the plantain tree, when you plant it, it gives rise one time to its resultant fruit or its resultant harvest, but then it will die off, and in the next year there'll be no further harvest. So the other ordinary virtues are like that; they will give rise to a positive result, but it won't continue. Whereas Shantideva says that the mind of bodhicitta is not like that. The mind of bodhicitta is described here as in one text as a marvelous tree, or the perennial tree. It's like a wish-fulfilling tree, so that it continues. It has countless results, not just providing us with a result in harvest or fruit in this year, but also in the next year and the years to come, so that it's inexhaustible, and it provides us with countless kind of immeasurable kind of harvest, and immeasurable number of sort of seeds which grow again and again over year to year, so that it's an inexhaustible form of virtue, which shows the superiority of bodhicitta over other virtues.
디버신도 미세 제나 양세기 시속이 슐루가 지기 된다디 디스고 답변은 가서 미 루고 매지 유버이나 루고 매봐 생기도 루고 매봐
No, do
루고 친구 매딩 미지에나 쿠란로 루고 매네야 쿠란기 미 주부 루고 친구 유행이지를 땡라바이나 띵년도 치에라바이나 아니 수수로 루부 미 루고 친구 주여바인디가나 디단년도 주지지네 수수 카데 딜레바 있는 짜고 말어 간이스나 루고 친구지를 땡여로 오 티나신 땅 알아서 디버베 할레브 친구 제슈고래 단도바도 시라체요 단도야 제시모 마음벌라 제 션주고래 그래서 딘데기 디버베 시부딘데 신하지고 제여바 있네 상주기 생의 땜바이나 짜고 말했어 간이스 딘서 상주기 생여바 인디가나 디기 디버 가수 친구 여바 있는 디기 나르순데 슈순데 맞자지지네 짜고 말했어 이네기 가신 님에게 상주기 공부이나 세상 디버 가수지 싸바 있나야 상주기 생공연의 도나지나 쿠마 뉴버 자투에게 표현 친구지어디 상주기 생의 여번나신 신다 기워 수지를 요 말했어.
And the next verse explains the same idea, that there's no other virtue like bodhicitta. This time, ale chondarwa. This go. Kamachiki. So now this explains the it's okay, yeah. Yeah, it's okay. So now this next verse number 13, explains to us how, again, there is no other virtue to compare to that of the virtue of bodhicitta, and it takes us as example an example of like almost like a bodyguard. So that, for instance, if you imagine someone that doesn't have any, is not courageous, and it doesn't have strong mental fortitude, And does it work? Yeah. It's all right. Ah, well, that's cool.
His
Yes.
voice, teacher's voice. Nghe tilasa.
Is it okay? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll try to. I'll try to do what I can. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Um, so yeah, so the next verse, verse 13, explains to us how, again, how there is no other virtue to compare to the virtue of the mind of enlightenment. And this example takes takes as an example the example of a courageous companion. So we can imagine somebody that is lacking in courage and is not of strong fortitude, afraid to go on a path somewhere. But if they were to if they were to find as their accompanying friend someone who is very strong and courageous to lead them along that path and to go on that path together, then that person would no longer have any fear. Um, uh, Likewise, in the meaning of the example, then it's sure that we have created many grave and great negativities. We have done that. We are still doing it, and we will continue to do it. And in some sense, there should be a fear of that situation. The fact that we have, as mentioned before, we have uh, engaged in a great number of negative actions. But what the verse says to us, by entrusting ourselves to this awakening mind, even though we have committed extremely unbearable evils, however many terrible things we may have done, if we take hold of this awakening mind of bodhicitta, then this will be able to swiftly overcome those negativities. So there is no other virtue to compare to bodhicitta in this way.
다디네 디니 뒤제미지 디지나 계징요 세워지세 tsi간니 디기 가르순 거스나 다 샹슈지 생기 디버신 종버지야 마 매버 수야 디 수단디 간데치레스 러디간라 하장기 뉴르부 조부지지 저
Mm,
뒤테 미스 러디간라 디레 당 상제지 송기 나로 디순거로 마음발랑 아준 잠블린디 진루디간라 미긴지 거스 거다 개바
mm,
동루디간라 개바
mm,
미긴지 버지 거스
mm,
디디간라 미 바리용디간라 잠블리 용주 미기치 버지 거 디디 미
mm,
바리용디간라 베 게지지베 lumba chasang ma tsin ruye sunu dindregi mi shu chi mu chi war dila
mm,
duje mi si war duje tamagi mi di sang
mm, mm,
duje tamagi mi di gi shinang di zu tsibir cheba nangshin pe chobun jugu ji tsibir cheba nangshin
mm,
shangju ji sen gomba di gi pe shangju ji sen geji ma ji gomba ina ya di gi shu ji diba padu meba chi pa tsibir chen jongbar chen rugu re pe duje tundung ji nanglo la yin
mm.
rungu ji gu ni meba chaya dina ma re si war da
And and so, in the first two verses of first two lines, sorry, of verse 14, where it states that just like the fire at the end of an age, it instantly consumes all great evil. In the other translation, it says it annihilates terrible misdeeds in but an instant. Um, then uh, the it's said that bodhicitta has this incredible quality to be able to overcome and completely destroy all of these negativities that we have done. Um, and how does that sort of happen? And in answer to that question, Shantideva uses an analogy, or where in the Buddha's from the Buddha's own words, he talks about it. It says here a fire and a fire at the end of time. Now, in the Buddha's teachings, it mentions that at a point in the future, this very world itself will be completely at the end of the fire at the end of time. This world will be completely consumed by fire, and the beings will all be burnt up in a moment, and there will be no sort of country or area that is left over. That's as what's been said. So, in that same sort of manner, then bodhicitta is able to um, even just cultivated for a very short time, not cultivated over a large period of time, but even cultivated almost for a moment, then the bodhicitta is able to burn away or destroy, uh, even in just a moment, a measurable amount of negative actions. So this is the next benefit. That's the next benefit mentioned by Shantideva.
아니 디오를 츠가니 디 표현 받으면 와도 상견 루드 덴베 노상시 송에디다 공도베 상주기 생기 표현 디오르스 만부 송송 딘데기 표현 받으면 와지 상견 루드 덴바스 러윤디가나 동북고빈 두기 나로라 두 패칭기 나로 두 패부치기 나로라
Ah.
베틴데지 제진에 받으면 와지 송샤요르다 딘나 다쇼스 거다 참마 술단단디 고이토 민도송 거다
So these are not and so just to sort of make it clear, all of these sort of benefits and sort of quotes or statements about the benefits of bodhicitta that have been mentioned, and these are in the second two lines of verse 14, it meant these benefits beyond measure or beyond imagination are mentioned in a section of the Avantaka Sutra, which is it says in the verse here, is the wise Lord Maitreya explained to Sudana in the Avatamsaka Sutra. And so this is not something that has been just put down without any sort of scriptural source. And if we're interested, we should take a look at those.
상주지 생디 상제 탕제지 사변 답드리스 상제라야 좀버신데야 제니 누구로 디 투명이 사변 답드비 상주기 생레스 마세베 신제 탕제지 가비 게추 권에 권도 피워지기 베 사신 답 신가 답드리 신가디 된도 비슷이 시디로 된도야 가서 야 비슷이 지디 신가디 자고로 디다브레스 아니 신진 탄지지 삼베 리워 탄지 용수 조버치비 bomba zambu스는 너치 마소 때르치 bomba 되는도 때봉세디로 때르치 bomba스는 디나 너르사모 디네 마 된용구에 딘데기 시수주로 어디나신기 디레 세자 딘데기베 상주생기 표현 도스리 제집에 시부송샤요다 디나 다쇼와 송거다
And so in the sutra mentioned here, the Avatamsaka Sutra, it talks about how bodhicitta is the seed of all of the Buddhas, the seed for all of the Buddhas to attain to become enlightened, and yes, it's the seed of all the Buddhas to become enlightened. It also talks about how the bodhicitta is the field in which all the other virtues are able to sort of increase, grow, and flourish. And it also mentions how all of the in order to sort of help all the hopes and wishes of all of the sentient beings, that bodhicitta is like a treasure vase. So this is a treasure vase in which all of the all great wealth is sort of contained within. And so it goes on to mention many sort of distinct qualities of bodhicitta, and encourages us to take a look in that sutra for more information.
다디 오디라 강라 상주지 생마도 계속만소 상주지 생의 표현인데 요를 송바로 다오는 표현인 얘기베 표현 친구 얘기 상주기 센세디 간대지레 디라 나실을 민다온다고 요르베 다 상주기 센세디 리드마소는 지버지레베 민다오 요레스 라윈디가라 다 상주기 센라야 림민다오 니 요레 디니라의 표현 치중기 제가 요새서 디하 구디 강라 아니 어디다 상주 신딘 돌디나 나머니 시제티 세기 슐거 니디 마송 요르디니마.
And so the next two verses, verses 15 and 16, above talk about the different kinds of bodhicitta, because prior to verse 15, we've been sort of saying the bodhicitta has this kind of benefit, and just using the word bodhicitta, and how greatly beneficial bodhicitta is. But the question may arise: well, this greatly beneficial bodhicitta, is it just of one kind? Does it only have one type, or does it have different aspects or different kinds? And so verses 15 and 16 explain the different kinds of bodhicitta, and also the difference. It will also explain the difference in the different forms of benefit that each kind of bodhicitta brings.
다 상주 신딘 돌디나 넘버 니스 시제디 멤버 신제당 상주 주와 니노스 니요레스 어디니 니우디.
And so then in verse 15, it explains bodhicitta has two aspects. The aspirational bodhicitta, the mind aspiring to awaken, and the engaging bodhicitta, the bodhicitta that's enacted.
다 디니기 체바 가래 러디간라 로언데던 로이세 슐거 지디 순고르다 구니기 체바디.
And so the difference between these two, of the aspirational bodhicitta and the engaged bodhicitta, is explained by analogy in the verse 16, where it says the distinction can be understood between wishing to go on a journey and actually setting out upon a journey.
다 디기 체바디 빼는 가서 나라 데데디간라 수수 나라 유디간라 오나 인지미지 아릴런 주기 상배 나라 데데워다 내가 가니지요 나 데데네 나 아릴런 인지미진 주기 상배 당자샤야긴 준되기 루지오로 그 준되기 루지오로 디 멤버 신제다 총벌에 상주기 생라 니유에 나니 멤버 신제 세디다 멤버 상주 주지 주的신제버세 디난 자오레스 다 나라 데데디간라 간 주기 상배 당자샤야 디자마인 버시 단 주기 상배 토니 운스야 랑시시네 kumbajen juye ke la ta ari le lebe che gu du sambe ke du gi de ngui juye gi lengui ngui su zangbe ne ge gi du gi sambe dang je lu ju ro da di de zongba de ska sa juba xiang chu de sin jie ba dan zhao de is xie zang qie ba o di yo de ku ni la.
And so the difference between, as it says, the difference between these two different types of bodhicitta can be seen in, for instance, in this analogy of the journey, where if we're sat in our homes and we sort of sat at home and we think, oh, I'd really like to travel to America, but we sort of sit there and we don't do anything. And that wish to go to America just remains at a sort of almost like a promise to ourselves that we wish to go. So that's like the aspirational bodhicitta. But if we actually don't just remain in our house, but we get up, we stand up, and start out on the actual journey, which will lead us to America. Then and put in and sort of do the things which actually make that journey happen, then that can be understood in terms of the engaged mind of bodhicitta.
다 세상 주버 신제디 상제기 고방 투버 지기 당자샤의 장마인 것이 투버 지기 상배 토네 아니 투베 체도 로 상주선배 자원 제고의 참마 지기스 당자샤버당 상주선배 제고의 참마 지기스 당자샤버당 마세베 무스 당자샤버낭신 라네 깨지시니 로 상주선배 제고의 디제제디 무스 아니 제양 구주네 자원도 장용디 간라 아니 디창주거다 주버 상주주도 신제버세 창주거
And so, in the same way, when we sort of take the that analogy and put a meaning to it, then when, for instance, we've taken up that we've made that sort of promise, having developed the aspirational bodhicitta, we have that promise that we will attain for the highest welfare of all sentient beings, we will attain the fully enlightened state of a Buddha, and we've made a promise to do that. But and that if that just remains at that level of a kind of a promise to do that, then that's at the level of aspirational bodhicitta. But if we don't just leave it as a promise, but actually in accord with that promise, we actually start to put these practices start to engage in these practices and start to put these into practice itself. Then that is the point when it would, in line with the promise and the practices that go with that promise, then that's when we starts to become the engaged bodhicitta.
다 디니 송고에 가르친다 군일의 표현 치중기 제거요다. 멤버 상주주의 생제버디 상주주의 생제버리 상주지 생 자고를 할레비 자침버리 쿠란의 표현 받으면 요르디 딜레장 주어 상주주의 생제버 생제 탄제지 된데 상제지 고방 투버지 세자만이 버지 고방 투버지 디체도 제고에기 주버 참물로 단단히 러기 상비 투네 아니 주버를 러양구 주버는 주지지네 상주선비 제고에 뒤수 제딩 구주지 딜은 주지지네 아니 주비 내거기 다 가속으로 상주기 생지어라 어디로 세상 군이 표현치버 시라치버 쇼디고 다디 빼주디 원이마 송구도
And so then so this is and so these two are also as will be described in a minute in the later verses. There's a difference in the sort of benefits or qualities of these two different kinds of mind of enlightenment. For sure, that mind which thinks I will attain the enlightened state for the benefit of all sentient beings, that aspirational bodhicitta, the mind of aspirational bodhicitta, for sure has tremendous, immeasurable forms of benefit. But if we, the moment that we actually take that sort of promise and mind, which thinks I will achieve it, and start doing engaging in the forms of conduct, which are the actual practices of the path of bodhicitta. At that time, that's when it becomes the engaged bodhicitta, and has far greater benefits again and qualities. Sorry.
다 상주 멤버 생리니 세기 디오기 슐가 지디기 멤버 상주주의 생제버 딜러양 아니 딜러 때네 제부 친구 편 빠드면 번주 중그리스 로 레디 주와 상주주의 생제버 나신기 수나 자친부인데 연구 말이스
So and then it goes on to state that although this aspiring mind of bodhicitta has tremendous benefit, as the verse 17 is going to explain to us, and it brings about great results and tremendous results and has tremendous qualities, but that is not like the vast qualities, vast results and tremendous benefits that attain to the engaged mind of enlightenment, engaged bodhicitta.
다디 월을 슐가 니디 간에 zon디 신진칸 시소지 슐가 니디 단 주버 상주주의 생제버이나 표현 간데 요버디 송교르다.
And so the next two verses, reading from verse 18 and verse 19, explain to us how although there's great benefit to the aspirational mind of enlightenment, as explained in verse 17, and in verses 18 and 19 it explains to us the vast and tremendous qualities and benefit of the engaged bodhicitta. Rimshi kama kache kashi na law say go right. Shana the law say to kama chik. Lots of Dumba geva doshis to gedan share dosh to any saru bidwa and then so siki page lo shimin not to give in this Lama sena gonda laster.
다 주바 상주지 센스 어디간다 디레 senji tanjeji tuandu rani ji zobe sanjeji koban tuba chigi samba di zang ma re di member shangshu chu de senji wer di zang la dan juba shangshu chu de senji wer di senji tanjeji tuandu zobe sanjeji koban tuba chigi di yoyo ba che di yoyo be to ne senji tanjeji tuandu sanje koban tuba chigi sanjeji koban tuba che do shangshu simbe domba langin shangshu simbe juba tsama la dandani login segi da be 루타 취베 루틴데지 쓰고 다디 루구 치오 중요로 다 장주스미 주버 단단히 러긴 쓰는데 다 심바 자침불 러야 추진 아니 가수 거다 추진기 제바 제바 차라 참마 송야라 구주니 러긴 세 딘데기 조동랑베 신제디 조바 장주지 지 센스 거로 다 세상 디인디가 딘데기 센디 랑차년 쓰고 센디 양다 랑주로 센디 랑차년 송디 디네 송디 니쿠바 이너레 창상 바메바 차바 이너레 창상 상주주의 센제베디 제지시네 아니 라마데 딘데 제바 이너레 쇠낭기 또디 지미체바 난카드 냥바 멤버 상주기 센레 장베 가수 장주 동주기 하바 딘데기 베 난카드 냥바지 랑기 랑기 베 쇠낭야 피치시네 다 상了看也蛮当为呢，虽然个到底呀，脾气呢，习惯就被老情不偏远的用个嘞，我的面包想就个现在没找我的，但这个虽然受情不偏的。
Yeah. And so then, so in particularly in verse 18 and 19, where we're here talking about the superior qualities of the engaged mind of bodhicitta, and even we have that wish. Oh, may I attain the completely enlightened state of Buddhahood in for the welfare of all sentient beings, and may I do that. But if we just leave it at that, then that's still just considered to be the aspirational mind of bodhicitta. So, but if on top of that, what we do is that we have that wish, may I attain the completely enlightened state of Buddhahood for the welfare of all sentient beings. For that purpose, then I will take the Bodhisattva vows, and also to engage in the practices and conduct associated with the training of the mind of enlightenment, and therefore then we start to engage in a vast kind of great generosity and a very strong practice of ethical discipline, and so we. In a sense, we take up what's called we're taking up the mind of enlightenment by taking the vows and engaging in the practices, and then the benefits that arise from that, as it says in verse 19, from then on, it could be that even whilst we've fallen asleep, or it might be that almost moments of inattention where we've sort of almost forgotten these contemplations, it will still be from within its own state. There will be a kind of increase, an unceasing force of merit, but also a kind of naturally kind of increasing and expanding force of merit that will be equal to the vastness of the sky. So this is the demonstrating another superior quality of engaged bodhicitta over aspiring bodhicitta.
다 디오긴 엔디니 테바 당제바 세기 슐가 지디 가르송 거스나 다 강라 샹주기 생了偏西部有世界忙不谢差不多
mm,
那的谢不的他还是谢不咱们一把的了杨大为举证有是个的杨大
mm.
为举证卡里有的是了的讲了偏顶着有被举证所这的아니 샹주 심바 라상기 쉬빈 두세 간주 나로는 두주어래
Ah,
디 나로라 아니偏빠도 매버 예비 주센디 수제디베 아니 가소래 송요래 스페
mm.
시차부 토니 다디 송야 디야 나조 삼바 춘중 sen 자침부 제면 통이 디수제디 심바 자침부 제 토에기 체도 디진시베 아니 라상긴 두나로 송요래스 어디스 거다
And so we've been talking about all of these benefits, the benefits of the different kinds of benefits of bodhicitta and the different kinds of benefits of the different kinds of bodhicitta. And again, these are things which are not just said lightly with no reason. They are backed up. They are indeed backed up by perfect reasons. And in verse number 20. Of the text, it explains to us that these are explained to us by the Buddha with strong, supportive, perfect kind of reasoning. And where are those reasoning? Where is one of the places certainly that these reasons are explained is in the sutra requested by Subahu. And in that sutra, all of the reasons why about the benefits, the benefits of bodhicitta are explained in great detail, and it also says to us, for those who incline in the root text, it says for those inclined to lesser paths. So Rinpoche said, for those who have got a smaller scope of mind, it's in order to create in those people a greater scope of mind that these things were stated, particularly in that sutra.
다디 오디를 슈르가 닌도 디 다 라상기 슈벤 두기 나로라 만부 송여버디 된다디 수디지시니 시월라 쿠랑기 샹주기 생了偏빠도면버 예베 리베 주제디 송용거다
And so those have been sort of stated in the sutra requested by Subahu, those many sort of reasons stated in the sutra and explanations about the benefits of bodhicitta in the sutra. And then from these following verses now, they are giving, from Shantideva's side, he's giving us some reasons of his own why in regard to why bodhicitta has such amazing benefits.
다 신진낭지 레네 장세 시수주 슈르가 니디기 가르수 송거스나 리베 주제 베나 나조 신진 라 강에 망부 예베 난 디난이 가수 강에 지통용디 간라치 레벨라 나서 예버순 통용디 간라 오 쿠이 레벨 나서디 다루제나 삼비 딘데기 루치 지버 장치 아니 쇠나 빠도 매버 요르스 지시니 삼보 잠보인디 간라 쇠나 사그르스 가수 러그로스 디 사그로스 핀베 삼보 지지버리다 미신다기 쩐지 나서지티 레벨 나서디 다루제나 삼보 딘데 삼보 다 단단 가수기 샹주기 생공용디가 신진낭지 나자 지다로 제는 상부디 말에 신진 탕지 나자 탕지 동해 탕지 매버 차로 제나 상당용디가 다 디베 가수 그래偏빠도 매버 연대 빠도 매버의 덴버디 시고엔 도베스 거고 랑신기 딘데 차 인버 말에베스 거다
Yeah, so then Shantideva sort of asks us rather rhetorically in the next two verses, verses 21 and 22, he asks us kind of rhetorically, if you have a person, if we develop the thought just to take one sentient being with a small kind of difficulty or illness, such as a headache, and that if we even just have the momentary thought to be able to relieve that one sentient being of a simple headache, and if that beneficial sort of mind has a kind of, as it says in the text, boundless merit, then how he asks us, well, what need is there to speak of the inconceivable benefit that would come, the immeasurable benefits and virtue and qualities that come from wishing not just one sentient being, but wishing all of the sentient beings to be relieved of every single kind of suffering they have, to make every single kind of suffering that they have non-existent. Then how much more? What need is there to talk about the merit that it attains to the wish to dispel all of their inconceivable misery?
他就我的了，今天嘛修了个松，胖养的马养荣，苏人的那平时与他当长松当家荣是习俗的嘛修了个松药，修了个松的他的地里的，告诉我的，这些修了库上，很多去托起心他的，被真正的被生命的中国的，我自己的身体的，哪个的呢？被神经是老有这个了被，神经激将。마 더해요 말이다. 딘데기 삼보 자친부디 노 스타윤디간라 베수 파마스에디 부라 하장기 제어 친부 수수 부구 된다라 가리는 제토에 딘데기 삼보 상보의 덴버리디 난가다네 베 신징기 제도세기 베 딘데기 삼보 자친부디 신디 파마라에 딘데 통해 요 말이스 통해 요 말이스 삼 아니 미술의 딘데기 삼보 자친부 통해도 지단치보다 상제기 송디를 띠니 상루 장부디 레야마도 다 술런도스 라인너의 장송인너의 다 장송세디 냐마 자나로를 질러야 되네 지트를 되지지네 가수거다 공장이 순데 딘데티 디스고로 딘데는 요 말이스 아니 베 멜란나로라 딘데기 상부 장부디 베 루로 코뇨메버 딘데 시행기 된다 봐 수수 된다라 딘데 상부 자치미 치고버디 미시바 아니 딘데지레스 세상 진짜기 배 심바 장부디 줄을 지에디다 배 하르 잔이 중요매 대비 상부 장부 모서 친구 하는 매비 매지 총스 어디 슐르가 숨바디 어디 송구도 세상 진짜기 배 모서 친구 시부지 레다스 어디 송구 할래버지 레다스
And so in the next three verses, which is verses 23, 24, and 25, then Shantideva asks us about this incredible scope of the mind of enlightenment, which has no sort of boundary. It has no to imagine wishing to achieve the welfare of all sentient beings as vast as the space, and without one single sentient being cast aside. This there's such a benevolent intention as this. He asks us, well, he says, not do the mothers and fathers, do the parents of the parents who have great loving kindness for their children, do they have such a vast mind? Because it's a mind which encompasses all the sentient beings. And he says, no, the parents don't have it. And so then even the parents don't have this kind of mind even for their beloved child. And then he says, well, wonders, well, who has this kind of who possesses this kind of mind? And he asks whether the rishi were the sort of sages or the practitioners in Indian tradition who would often go into kind of solitary retreat in sort of very remote areas in order to do their practices. And he says, or even the gods, do the gods or the sages or even Brahma, do they have this kind of mind? And then he asks, if those kind of beings, even in their dream, have never had this kind of attitude, even for themselves, let alone for the sake of the limitless, innumerable sentient beings, this incredible, amazing mind, if they haven't even had that wish to attain enlightenment for themselves, how could they ever have that kind of mind for others? So he's asking, who is it that possesses this kind of mind?
그래서 다
Yeah, duh.
리우 당부디 데즈만도 사마송 샤기 저틀리제나 저유나
So there's a little bit of the text of chapter 1 of Shantideva's Way of the Bodhisattva left over, but I think I'll leave the explanation of that for now, and we'll have a little bit of question and answer.
저유나 다나 쇼바니 저 시우유스기 다단다 유스미면 되다.
I felt there might be a lot of questions, but it seems that there might be not as many as I imagined.
Thank you for the teaching. So for someone who very, very early in their practice, still very little bodhicitta, there's a section where Shantideva mentioned brave companion, and that really spoke to me because sometimes I don't feel like I have it, but maybe I have a brave companion sort of beside me. So I was wondering if you would say anything about where to pull in strength from outside to build more bodhicitta.
Oh, of course. Laos. Ani ke the Junginana, Junjuki Junginana digi, Denzam de mi digi, nada Nyamnun Shukchambo Mendus, and Janchuki Sam down the Rosh is Sam digin Chunchun Mato Mendus.
대한민도 창한테
Ah,对, do.对. It's so Tembo Mendua. This Mandolin Mendua. Legre. Amachik. Yeah.
translator 창한테 손나
Lots. So Jewish Kindegi, Katish Kindegi, and the Nanzidi and Namadigi and Yamlin Shuchambo making Doshins, and the Sosuki Janchuki Sem Ninji Losobat Suki Nunin Matamendus, and the Janchuki Junjuki Nana Gon Shiwalagi Nansuki. 包咗時嘅，作咗包咗時嘅諗下嚟對嘅食蛋定被落不到時飲到對嘅偏頭藥嚟，呢譬如少少嘅廠內嘅做被包咗時咩嘅咗時對，呢切落呢少少嘅生熟派啦，所以切落呢樹丁嘅。탑시 여러배 소수기 바 소수기 로코 그세 소수기 샘슈디기 하게기 탑시 여러배 칠로네
알레옹
어
폐지하고서 다 슐로네스 라윈의 조디 베네디오로 루 좀베 터랑 준주 나로라 마부송도 아니 고디부지 참마춘년도 루지지니 뒤샤바디 지다니 침비 베나 라인 침비 나로라 디카도디라 임베 파신 르베 파신 준주 파신 기거라 할레버지 송요레 아버도 준주 파신 카도디라 르베 파신 카도라 니도야 빠야디라 다디 양내양의 님바이나 슐로니 망부这些 자야당 비셰강의 유버디 망부 대바이나 그 양양 공신 드블 제바이나 아니 루고 당 니도야 공내공도 피야당 야 빠야라 데데 체버지 요레스 지디디지
And so when we here in the text, we've sort of discussed many sort of paths of practice, which are all sort of drawn together in one kind of place. But I think perhaps in terms of going through sort of the practices associated with, say, practices such as the patience and joyous effort, these the practices of the perfections, then perhaps here they're all sort of drawn together a little bit. But in Lamrim Chenmo by Lama Tsongkhapa, then if you're to sort of either listen to teachings on that or read in more detail about it, then it gives sort of more sort of clear examples of how to engage in each of the practices of the perfections. And by reading and familiarizing ourselves with them and getting habituated to these kind of reasons that are presented, and then it helps us to then from chapters such as patience and enthusiastic effort, it helps us to slowly become sort of habituated to them. And I think that is a way to sort of increase our kind of mental strength.
다야 니 체와 요래 배나 수수랑니를 가르기 편치기를 슬로디간라 배나 뒤로 삼바 시워지 생시워당 인다나 생기지 최신 띵부 제구도 삼베지 로타 취부다 디체버이나 수수라 디 편치기를 했어 이나 다디 용야라 가르치고 그랬을라나
quand the youngest song the disco summit
수수랑니라 상을 가르다나 편치기를 편버치어 요르스지 러버이나 수수 생기 나로라 심바 시워 생시워念토야지 심바 르르 지진에 가수念토바이나르 디최지 수수가 편도치어 요레스 다나 생기지 루타 취부 디치기 루타 취부 요베이나 요베이나야 타지 토엔 디치기 지기 메시지 가두이네 가르치고 있나 타 쉘라마쉘 데데나 디수수가 핑기 말해 루타 취부 요나 수수가 편치어 요레스
Yeah, so in terms of this, we also have to think about what is of the greater benefit to ourselves. So, for instance, in terms of the practices that we do, we can look to see how to, what practices influence and create a kind of peaceful state of mind within us, and therefore that can be beneficial in taking that route. For instance, if we're sort of very undecided about what to do, we can't sort of make a sort of a firm decision either way about something. If there's things which create that kind of state, then it's not so useful. Whereas things which help us to be a bit more decisive about our direction in which we and the way that we wish to practice, those things can be considered of beneficial to us. So sort of looking also at the way that the practices sort of suit us as well is also something quite important. That's up.
배나 미 루고 친구다 냥네 야부 유킨 로 배나 취냥네 하장리 야부 유킨 디나야레 양미 가시 루고 친구 되는도 딘데 이모 이나레 다 디수 제디 당분에 냥네 야부 유바다 당분에 배 루고 친구 유바 딘데 게 말해 당부배 루고 친용지 디네고 로 림베 구 장치시네 로 단다 배 루고 친용레디 가수 제투버디 고치 자샤도 마수 니 제투버 있는 니디 디네 송제 시제 루고도 마수야 치르 진주지 타마디 가리나 제평이 수를 차주고로 그래서 마주 단다 루고 친부요레 냥네 친부요레세 미티 수제디 당분 알아서도 집어래 집어지장래 마수도 집어지장 임버디 가수래 상루동 다나 신기 깔레저지신 양도스 장도 치네 침바로 배는 가서 단다 취지행이 주면 돼. 취지에서 가려고 그래. 투자 통부딘데 간에 맞추니 취지행이 되는 도. 도 통부딘데 랑이 맞추니. 아무지 투자지 마부딘데 랑이 총디가 총표 마피지기도 시니 총표
ha,
총표미도
ha,
단디 마지 투자 시가지 총표 디총 디네야도 스파르도 스파르 타마베 투자 송싱아 투자 베 나주 주딘 가니마 칸도
ha,
투자 나 주딘 딘데기베
ha,
투 tumbu 딘데니 마 총바인 총표니 작도디
ha,
닌도 루고디레 좋아요 그도시
ha.
총선이
Lo. So then also, we have to sort of remember we shouldn't look at people and just think, oh, that they're very they're very good in the practice of the Buddha's teachings, and they're very sort of courageous in the way they're strong-minded and courageous in the way that they practice, and they're very strong-minded. Uh, you can guarantee that they may be like that now. But they would have been exactly the same as us in the past, where they had they were not courageous in their practice, and they didn't have strong training. But what happened is that those people trained their mind stage by stage, bit by bit. So whatever they were able, whatever they had the ability to improve by, the amount, whatever amount they had the ability to improve by, then they would push to improve that much, and piece by piece, little by little, and slowly they were able to get stronger and stronger, and have a more excellent practice. But that came through training in stages, and that came about by the way of thinking about the teachings, and by improving their thinking about the teachings and improving their mind. So, for instance, there are those who are able to jump from a great height, but those people would not. Now it's perhaps possible for people to jump from 5 or 6 stories, and to jump down, but those people would not have had that courage to be able to do that right at the beginning. They would have tried a small jump, and then they would have slowly increased it story by story. So they never started out being able to have the courage and ability to jump from a great height. They would. It's something that came in stages. So we have to also think like this. Mhm.
There's a question from Meredith online, and she writes, can Rinpoche discuss the circumstances where confrontation is required of a bodhisattva? How can we be sure that instinct is not our own egoic desire or defensiveness, and is instead truly an act of compassion for the person in question?
디레름시데 난서 삼삼디기 디 난라디기 수수기 전추샘기 람단 드베 제비 나는 삼삼디 미셴바데기 페시 룰렌 테이켄 로시기나 아니 콘스 난서 그파 디스 로고르바 아니 페나 파 센탑the pa dengores pa kaya la michiki pechin nubache dan dikba chimboche nanzula nubache la sopati dorshina and naza pa orba samsam the ka orba konzula ani kaya digi ani sentap jola sopa dengedela and nanzu kandas nanlo digi susugi dazin sopa de chumwa yinayan or susugi nyamlin the chumwa the tache this kabudua susugi dazin la deni jita jinan la deni dazin la deni pa kaya de susugi ninjila sopagi kunune choi the hako kabudus and nanjas kandas yimchi chegidus the roshi to go there.
표지 가서 최 팅인데 지송 다 뒤로 나서 상주지 생량의 지구로 삼보 잠부 냥의 지구로 삼보 잠부 냥의 지스를 디간라 미신다기 두자 제거된 원래 제수 쓰고 말해 미신다기 두자 제버디 가르치는 제주스 짠이 쓰고 말다. 다디 나주 고베 디카도디 군농 침부지 미망불로 군농디 티기도 스버상부지 스디 미신다기 두자 가르치는 제주스지. 두자 가르치는 제주는 삼보 상부 쓰고 말디라. 삼보 상부 여버이나 미신다기 두자 제네 미신다디 코란로 뉘베 자오지 지기여부 통소나 디까고 그래. 까바이나 코란로 핑기로. 단다 쿠이기 자오 님버 제버디 까간 루디간라 폴라 단다 뉴기리디 풀라 핑기로 세상 디 까고 디 까야디 펜베 삼베 투니 까야디리 디 마임버제 베나 차당기 왕기 미신다기 뉴버 제디 까야디 가레스나 차당기 왕기 까간 루야디 미가 펜나 상지 까간 루고 말이 되차기 왕기나 디 나라지 뉴미용 상지 로 다나 얘기지 수수기 자란의 인들이 수수로 구입에 무부지에는 뒤출라를 지 다음에 영상지 랑년기 치的 가가지고로 이 제가디 공론을 따주래다 공론이 가르도 수치도 가가지고 그랬는데 파쇼를 펜베치도 가가지고 그랬는데 다디 상동당기 치버지로 다디 수수생의 대위는 하고 그래 흘려지 대위나 얘를 뒤질라다 되지
Yeah, so this is a very important point, but there are circumstances where there are circumstances where somebody is committing a kind of harmful, a very harmful or very negative action, and we have to when we're talking about cultivating the minds of sort of bodhicitta, but also cultivating that sense of kind-heartedness. Kind-heartedness doesn't just mean that then we just stand back and let everyone do what they do and sort of not get involved in it to some extent. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have that connotation when we talk about compassion and kind-heartedness. If somebody is performing if somebody is doing something very harmful, either to ourselves or to others, then trying to stop them from doing that harmful action will bring them great suffering in the future. So trying to stop that person engaging in that harmful action will actually benefit them. Okay, but what's very important is understand where our motivation lies. If the motivation in ourselves for stopping them from doing something harmful lies in the thought of their welfare, the wish for their benefit and their welfare, and the understanding of that, then that would be considered a beneficial, a positive thing. But if instead actually the reason that we're trying to stop someone doing something has some form of self-interest within it. So, for instance, if it's underpinned by attachment or anger, and that's the sort of motivational cause underlying it, then of course that's not beneficial. So that could be a much more defensive sort of way in the sense that we're worried about, for instance, through attachment or we're worried about that they might harm ourselves or they might do something to our possessions, or we're in some kind of our own self-interest is going to be harmed by that, then of course that's a negative thing. And so these two sort of ways rely very much on motivation. And if we should be able to sort of see what's going on in the moment, it's difficult, but in quieter moments we should be able to see what is really influencing our motivation.
가고기다 조디 간다 가서 그티로 수술라 하장기 마유바다 망창배 뉴버 침부제외이나 다랑자 제주외이나 수술라 뉴버 장마리 뉴버 제킹 미쿠랑라 뉴그레 쿠랑 가지마주 제대외이나 디바사고 프랑양 친디라양 칭강라 투야 닌가 요래 지워시만 니 손은 저 닌가 요래 그래서 파 동네진이 가고 다디
Oh.
디카슈시 송구도아디.
So yeah, this is Rinpoche was just checking if his answer matched the question, and so yeah, this is the thing. If there's somebody really performing these sort of terrible, aggressive or harmful actions, if we don't do anything about it, not only will it harm us, but in the context, it would also harm that other person if we're not prevented from doing those sort of terrible negative actions. They could be taken to court or end up in jail. And so yeah, there are situations in which there is a need to stop sometimes there is a need to stop people performing negative actions, other people.
상제지 낭다르 낭로는 닌데지도 대변 니지 진세디.
Oh.
대변 니지 진세. 더디 낭다르디 계신 요래. 벤 총방가자 장수 낭로라 노블링가 침바라 총방가자제. 디 랑가 치킨디라 대변 니지 진세 줘디. 가사 랑가 치킨디로 대변 세.
Yeah.
디 마인베 양 미남 동동 진세 딘레기 미신다 줘다.
알레오.
미남 동동 진기 상루 낭로라 상 두자 코르치시니 아니 대변 니지 진디 세 아니 또 장수는 주디간로 주나는 주고로 주디 출라 당시시 민가제 참 장수나로 시주 아니 림부치 디주 사마 코라 키고상 공론디 키네 라고 주디 출라 당야기 당 미신다 가서 대변이지出세야 당 딘데기 상 당바로 어디 제비 딘데기 자다기 뒤스디 나로라 대변이지 진기 미난 동동지 세버래 대변이지 진스는 하장기 심바상부 쿠란기 상로 가르 당르스나 오다 미난 동동지나 민가제 세주바이나 장수나로 유주바이나 민가제 세비 디바사 그랬다 민가제 세비 디바사소나 디바 하장기 처침부로 디바디긴 제부디 빼빠도면요 다 민가제 세비 디바사 먹고에 지수니 디바사야 디 강구제지 로 아니 디바티지 니네 미나 가사 미난 동동지 민가제 세비 디바디사 먹고에 수야듯이 니네 미난 동동지디 미지레 파슈디 민가제레 민가제기 수자야당 니 아니 다 대변이지 진 쿠란기 미난 동동지 세바이나 미지 세베 디바 용그레 용그레디 미지 세베 디바 사지지 냐완의 지바이나야 아니 미신다 민가제기 수자야당 미난 동동지 민가제 세니 디바 처진사네 니송라 타메버진 두고야 디니의 저야기 체도 나라 미지세베 디바사네 냐원의 침바이나 친주 상상 수수료 당버리다. 왜 미난 동동지 세버로. 세버디기 순한게 초빠도 매버 사버렸을 거다. 민가 초제베 순한사. 사제지 고방 토야라 타 니르 침버렸을 거다. 다디 세상 미세베 자오인바이나야 타지도베 미기워 차 사빙 이번 민도어디. 시 수수배도 류당요다. 수수 让人给上路不长用，今天苦力气，在顶这个上当用的讲了呀，年初没谁的人多，现在的功能啥来，做的功能其实的。
And so these situations, they definitely rely so much on the motivation, and so there's a biographical history from the Buddha's time of I don't know the name of it's a famous story of the name of a ship's captain who was sailing. Guiding 500 merchants across the sea to do business, and they were carrying a large amount of wealth with them. And there was another person, Minyat Donton, I don't know the name in English, and he had developed a very terrible plan that he saw the situation with the captain guiding these 500 merchants across the sea, and he developed a terrible plan in order to kill the captain and then to take hold of the ship and to wreck the ship so that all of the merchants would fall into the ocean and die, and that he could then carry on and take away all of the wealth of the merchants. Now, in the history of this history of the Buddha, then the Buddha, the Buddha as this ship's captain understands that Minya Dundan wishes to kill all of these merchants, and he understands that this will be a horrific kind of negative act for Minya Dundan. It will be a tremendous negative action, which will bring him great suffering and throw him into the hell realms for many, many lifetimes. Because what he was planning to do is to kill 500 people, and he will accumulate the negative action of killing 500 people. And so one of the thoughts that the ship's captain has is that he will prevent him from doing that, so that he doesn't have to suffer that tremendous negative action. So the ship's captain kills Minya Duntan and saves the merchants. So this is an extremely important story in the Buddhist kind of literature, and so that's one of the reasons he does it, is because of the terrible negative action that Minya Duntan himself will accrue. But he also thinks about it in terms of the number of people who will die. So, for instance, if he were to kill Minya Duntan, then only one person will die, whereas if he allows him to carry out his plan, then over 500 people and the ship's captain will all die. And so he takes on that this sort of potential karmic retribution of committing the act of killing Minya Duntan, but it's done out of it's extremely important to understand that his motivation was purely inspired by the welfare of others, so the welfare of the merchants, but also very specifically the welfare of Minya Duntan. So and it's actually said in the story that not only this act of preventing that, because of those two motivations, actually drew him where he was able to save the lives of over 500 merchants, of the 500 merchants, sorry, but also to prevent Minya Duntan from committing the act of killing the 500 merchants, actually didn't get him further away from enlightenment, but drew him closer to enlightenment. So this is a story which tells us about the prime importance of motivation when we're doing things. So we'll leave it here today.
Everybody.
So we'll leave it for today.
Yeah. Prayers, please.
Invite everyone to join me in the prayers. We're teaching on page 5 at the bottom, the short mandala, and then we'll continue to the end. This ground anointed with perfume, strewed with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. May my venerable Lama's life be firm, his white divine actions spread in the 10 directions. May the torch of the teachings of Losang always remain, dispelling the darkness of all beings in the 3 realms. Idam Guru
Niyata, yeah.
And on page 6. All in English. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions,
Right. Yeah.
the state of a Guru Buddha, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhisattva that hath not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Long life prayers for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The wish-granting, wish
source of every single benefit. To the incomparably continuous gods of our species, may all your
May all your holy wishes be spontaneously
yeah,
and for the swift return of Lama Rinpoche. Peerless teacher and
fairness
family of the children of the
and
victorious
resilience and
Ravana,
incubation.
victorious
When I
ones,
finish in big
honor
wonderful, and then good get a song.
all the objects of refuge and of infinite ends, please bestow the virtue of goodness accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading
And there's a
this precious and complete teaching
happened to
through explanation and
that.
practice, or the armor of patience that is never discouraged. In Kamha,
Somewhat
venerable Guru, to you I make request, while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge. And for mother living beings, who suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving
Shinada
truth of the blessing
is in
of the ocean of the three
Apache.
worlds, and the great
Everything but
peace and ocean of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. And Shantideva's prayer.
the Chupa.
May all beings
And
everywhere,
then
plagued by
by us,
sufferings of non-being, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of mindfulness. May no living creature suffer. Let everyone be afraid or belittled. With a mind weighed down by depression, may the blind see form and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments, whatever diseases there are in the world. May they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
See it.
Thank you.